Hello guys, what's up? This is Mortaza, and in this video I have decided to talk about writing clean code. If you are a member of my YouTube channel, A Coder's Journey, you probably know that I have a playlist for writing clean code, and in that series I use Visual Studio and C# to tell you all about clean code. But as I think this is a very important topic, I have decided to create this video, and I have decided to talk about like 15 to 20 techniques that you can use in order to write better code, cleaner code, and these techniques also help you to keep your existing code clean. As you can see, we are going to spend most of our time here in Visual Studio 2022. And I am using C# as the language. I have created a console application, as you can see here, and the techniques which I am going to talk about apply to other programming languages as well. Some languages have their own conventions, but we are going to specifically talk about C#. Now, the first and most important thing that I want you to know about is that the IDE that you choose for your development is very important. Here I have chosen Visual Studio. Visual Studio comes up with many interesting and nice features that can help you to become more productive in your day-to-day tasks. For example, a very important thing when it comes to writing clean code is to choose good names for your variables, classes, methods. We're going to talk about that. But what I want to know here is that Visual Studio helps you, rename your variables. For example, suppose I have declared a variable m here, and I have declared another one like n, my name, right? And then I am going to write m in the output. And after that, I'm going to say, you know what, I want new m equals. Now, as you can see here, I have declared the m variable of type int. I am printing it here, and then I am, incrementing its value. Now, I think that choosing a good name for this variable is very important. So I want to change this variable, right? So I'm going to say, this is my age, but as you can see, these references were not updated. So what I need to do is to come here and, one by one update them, which is of course very tedious and error prone. But a better way in Visual Studio is that you can, select your variable, and then you can press Ctrl+R twice, and then this pop-up comes up, which helps you to, rename your variable and all of its references. So I'm going to say this is my age, and as you can see, all of the references of this variable changes, and then you can say apply, and the code gets updated. This is a very nice feature that Visual Studio offers, and there are many features that help us to be more productive. So what I'm trying to say is that first and foremost, try to choose a good IDE with many features, like the one that you just saw, the capability of renaming variables, which can help you to, make your code cleaner and also to be more productive. So that was the first tip that I wanted to share with you. Number two is choosing good names for your variables. Again, this is very important, not only for your variables, for your classes, and for your methods, for your method parameters, and so on. Your names need to be descriptive, and it is better to follow the casing convention of your language. So for example, in C#, there is a convention that states that local variables and the method parameters should use camel casing, but for example, classes, methods should use Pascal casing. Again, choosing good names are very important. Your names should be, descriptive. In my series on clean code at my YouTube channel, I have talked about this topic a lot, and I have talked about many different aspects of choosing a good name And you know, choosing a good name is really plays a very important, you know, part in keeping your code clean. So instead of, for example, choosing a single character name like N here, it is better to choose a name that, you know, clearly represents the value that you are storing. Now here, for example, I am storing my own name in this variable. So maybe, for example, choosing my full name is a better name for this variable. So I think it is very important not to use single character words. Also, you know, follow the convention. So if you have a local variable, choose camel casing. If you've got a method, choose Pascal casing. And believe me, choosing good names are very important. If you want to know, it's very important. If you want to know about the importance of choosing good names for your code elements, I highly recommend my series on my channel, A Coder's Journey, because, you know, there are many things you need to be aware of when it comes to choosing good names. Tip number 3 is choosing the, you know, casing is about camel casing and Pascal casing. As you probably know, let me go to, you know, Solution Explorer and let me create a class. I'm going to call this class person. As you already know, we prefer, you know, Pascal casing for our class names, also for our properties, right? And also for our methods. I'm going to say method. I'm going to say print full name. And here I'm going to say string, some parameter. It is very important to follow the convention of C#, the conventions of C#. For example, for your class names, you use Pascal casing. For your properties, Pascal casing. Also for your methods. For your method parameters, you use camel casing, right? So camel casing means that, you know, the first word is all in lowercase and the first character of the subsequent words is in uppercase. And for, you know, Pascal casing, the first letter of each word is in uppercase. And I think, you know, even more important than choosing Pascal casing or camel casing is to be consistent. So if, for example, you use Pascal casing for your methods, and then, for example, you come here and create the next method, right? And you do something like this, for example, right? This is a bad practice. This is a very bad practice to, for example, have a method whose name is in Pascal casing and another one in camel casing or lowercase in this case. So this is bad practice. You need to be consistent because this makes your code dirty and very, you know, difficult to understand. So if you choose Pascal casing for your methods, make sure you follow that practice all over your code base. Or if you, I don't know, use lowercase for your local variables. For example, here you declare a field, right? Something like this, right? If you use lowercase for your local variables, your fields, make sure you follow this practice all over the code base. Being consistent is very important. The next thing I need to talk about is using comments judiciously. When it comes to comments, you know, more often than not, we can omit them and make our code clean. For example, I'm going to get rid of this and I'm going to say fname. And here I add a comment, this property, right? This property stores the full name of the person. Now, look at this example. Because I didn't come up with a good name for this property, I had to add this comment in order to make the role of this property cleaner. So what about getting rid of this comment altogether and instead choose a good name for this property? So this makes this property self-explanatory. I do not need to add another line, another comment to this class, you know, to make the role of this property easier to understand. Another thing about using comments, sometimes I witness this, believe me, is that some programmers add comments for every single line of code. So for example, here they come and say, this is a property to store the full name of a person. And then for print name, again, another line of comment, this method is responsible for printing something, printing the full name. So don't do this. This is bad practice. Do not add comments to every single line of code or to every method, because this increases the noise to ratio, the noise to signal ratio of your classes. So get rid of them. Just use comments whenever you think they really add value, and more often than not, instead of adding comments, you can make your code cleaner. You can choose a better name, and you probably can get rid of that comment altogether. And also consider using XML comments. They're more meaningful. For example, here you can say this method prints the full name. And then for parameter, you can say this is some parameter. And you see that, that if, for example, I come here and I get rid of this code and I create a new, person instance, right? Add the namespace. And then if I choose, for example, print full name, I can see in the pop-up the description of the method. This method prints the full name, and also for the parameter, this is some parameter. So using XML comments, again, you need to be careful about using XML comments as well. If you use them, at a reasonable level, they are more useful, I think, compared to ordinary comments, because they help document your code as well. But personally speaking, I'm not a big fan of using comments. Whenever I want to add some comments to my code, I just, wait a moment, I step back and I look at my code and I think whether I can make that code clean by using some, refactoring techniques. So this is what I suggest doing. Instead of, inserting comments all over the place, just take a moment, step back, look at your code. More often than not, there's a good chance you might be able to, make your code clean without inserting comments by, choosing a good name or refactoring code and things along those lines. Another thing that I want to talk about here is using magic numbers and magic strings. This is also something that I see all the time. And let me give you an example. For example, in this class, let me get rid of this. And let me, for example, come here, and for calculate age, I'm going to say, for example, I'm going to say is or can vote. Can this person vote, right? And this method will return a bool. And then I'm going to say this is, let's say, an int age, right? I'm going to get rid of this method altogether. And in this method, I'm going to say, if age, right? If age is greater than 18, return true, else return false, right? Else return false. Now, the question is, what does 18 mean? If I come to this code after 6 months, after a year, I will probably need a moment to think, why 18? And here the context is, I think, very, clear. So can vote, this is the, voting age probably. But you see what I mean? In other scenarios, it is a little bit difficult to understand why. Why did I choose this 18 here? You know what? So, or for example, here, like I'm gonna say string, for example, and I'm gonna say no, here no, there yes. For the next programmer, or even for myself, I don't know, like 1 year from now, I will probably need to think about this yes. Why have I chosen yes here or no here? Another important thing is that if, for example, I need to refactor this code, I need to go over all of the methods which, for example, have used this value 18, and I need to update them accordingly. If I want to, for example, change 18 for my voting age to, I don't know, like 19 or 20. Suppose in some countries, a person should turn 19 in order to be eligible to vote. So if I want to change that, I need to go to all of the methods and update them one by one, which of course is very tedious and also very error prone. So what I suggest doing is, creating a const and then, storing this value in that const and give that const, a meaningful name and use that const all over your class. And whenever you need to update that, method, that value, you need to update it only in one place, which is the const that you have, declared. So I'm going to say const string, or let me say int, right? Voting age. And, for consts, we prefer using uppercase with underscore. And I'm going to say 18 here. And then I'm going to say if it is greater than voting age. This is very, very, clean, much better than the previous code. It is very easy to read and understand. And by looking at this voting code, and by looking at the name of this const, I can clearly see why I have chosen 18 or what this 18 mean. And if, for example, in the future, I want to, create a person from a country where the voting age is 19, I do not need to go over my class and, update each 18 or 19 one by one. I'm going to just come here and we'll create, update the value just once. And again, for these, I can take advantage of creating const. For example, I can say can vote, and I'm going to say cannot vote, and here I'm going to say you can vote. You cannot vote. Again, I'm going to use this here and here. This is also very easy to read, very easy to understand. And if I need to change these two strings in the future, the only place that I need to make an update is where I have declared these constants. So what I recommend is replacing your magic numbers and magic strings with const variables. Okay, something else, the next tip actually that I want to talk about is method parameters. Now, suppose here I'm gonna create a method. I'm gonna say bull, and I'm gonna say, let's say, is married. And here, I'm gonna take in some parameters. String, or let me say int age, bull, for example, male, or the next one will be, let's say, first name, last name, and so on. Now, let me tell you guys something up front. If you have a method with many parameters, like more than, maybe 5 or 7 parameters, chances are that method is not clean. Chances are that method is doing more than one thing and is violating the SRP, single responsibility principle. Now, in such cases, what I recommend is doing, a simple refactoring technique. I am going to talk about refactoring on my YouTube channel, but a refactoring technique that can help you to encapsulate all these, parameters into a class the properties of a class, and then you pass in an object of that class into this method. Now, first off, I think it is very important to think about the method and decide whether this method is doing more than one thing or not. So you want your methods to, you know, implement the important single responsibility principle, right? A method should have only one responsibility, one reason to change. So, as I told you, when you have a method with too many parameters, chances are that that method is doing more than one thing. Now, so it is better to, you know, refactor that method. You know, probably you're gonna have to extract some pieces of code into other methods and so on and so forth. But after doing that, instead of, you know, passing in primitive data types, it is better to encapsulate these into a class. For example, let's say I'm going to create a class, very simple class. I'm going to say, and then I'm going to create some properties, right? These are the properties. I'm going to create them. And then I'm going to pass in a single instance of this class with, so, you know, their properties. Suppose I have created these properties in this class. So this is what you are going to do. Instead of, you know, passing in primitive data types, you're going to create a class or a struct, for example, and then this class acts like a container for your different values, and then you're going to pass an instance of this class into your method. This makes your method easier to understand and easier to maintain. This is also very important. Another thing that I think is very important, another tip, I use this a lot, is ternary operator. I don't know about you guys, but if you are anything like me, you use this, you know, operator because it is so you know, useful, very easy to work with, and it makes your code very compact. Now, as an example, I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna say, this is an example that I use all the time. I'm gonna say I have a string result, right? And then I'm gonna say voting age is 19 or 18, and I'm gonna say my age, right? I'm gonna say int.parse console write line or read line, read line, and then I'm gonna say if my age is greater than voting age, greater or equals to voting age, result is you can vote, else you can't vote, right? Else result equals you cannot vote, and that's it, right? So this is a simple if-else statement. As you can see, it's very simple to, you know, understand, and very simple to kind of recognize what it is doing. But I can also make this very terse. I can make it very compact. For example, as you probably know, when you have a one line of code, after your if statement, you do not need these curly braces. So this is one way to do this. Another one is the ternary operator. So I'm going to say, I want something to store in the result variable in each of these cases, right? So I'm going to say result equals, right? My age, this is the condition. First, I need to put in the condition, and then I need to question mark. And if this condition holds true, I want result to have this value. Else, the colon, I use the colon. I want the result to have this value, right? And then I get rid of this code. So this is the ternary operator, which is very, you know, terse and easy to understand. So you've got a condition, then you've got the question mark. If this condition holds true, you are going to store this value in this, you know, variable, else you're gonna store this value into this, variable. So more often than not, consider using ternary operator instead of going for the if-else statements. The next tip that I want to share with you is using string interpolation. Again, some example. Suppose I have my name, my full name, right? I'm gonna write my full name. Let me say my full name, right? Then I'm gonna say my age. Then I'm gonna say location, Canada, and Canada, right? I'm gonna say final string. I want this string. Look, I want my name, right? I want this string in the output, right? So what I can do is to come here and say, you know what? First off, I need my full name, right? And then I concatenate with who is, and then my age. And then I'm gonna say currently lives in, and then location. So of course this works. I'm not talking about the performance. I'm not concerned about the performance. I know it is better to use, for example, string builder in such cases. But anyway, I have used simple, plus operator to concatenate these strings. And I'm sure that you agree with me that this is very, unreadable. So I need a moment. Whenever I come across this code, I need to pause. I need a moment to really concentrate and see what it is doing, what this code is doing. And this is a bad thing. This is very important. If you need a moment to think about your code, if while reading your code, you need to stop and, read back, and then you're gonna, have some difficulty comprehending all this code, this is a bad sign. This is probably a bad smell, a code smell. This really means that your code needs some, refactoring, and you need to make your code clean. So here, instead of, using this, I'm gonna use another version. I'm gonna use string interpolation, and you probably know to use string interpolation. First, you need to put the $sign at the beginning, and then you can, put the values in curly braces. You can say my full name, and then you're gonna say who is, and then age, currently lives in, location. This is, I think, much easier to understand and cleaner, as you can see. So my name, who is, my age, currently lives in, location. And I can, of course, come here and say, I run this. This is what I get in the output. This is exactly what I was looking for, right? But this one with string interpolation. So guys, I'm going to finish this video right up here. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. In this video, I kind of, talked about the different techniques that you can use in order to write cleaner code and also keep your code clean. I think writing clean code is important, but keeping your code clean is very, very important. So if you have enjoyed watching this video, please make sure you subscribe to my channel on YouTube, A Coder's Journey. There I have created a full playlist of the different techniques that you can use to write cleaner code in C#. We've got also other, playlists, other series, which get updated regularly. I usually publish videos these days, every day or every other day. Stay tuned. I will meet you there. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you, like this video. If you enjoyed it, share it with a, friend. And see you there. See you at A Coder's Journey. Thank you so much for watching. Till later. Bye-bye.